you've got 14 and 15-year-old kids having Tommy John surgery, that's an issue. So you got to take a break.
Welcome to another edition of the Coach's Corner. We do this every Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern, and what our goal is to provide access to college coaches from across the country at all levels and divisions in order to help parents and student athletes have an awareness, but more importantly, an understanding as to what it is like at the college baseball level. And my guest today, a former major leaguer with the Los Angeles Dodgers, St. Louis Cardinals, Tracy Woodson, who is the head baseball coach at the University of Richmond. Good morning, Tracy. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Walter, for having me.
You're very, very welcome. And I want to talk about, this is year 10 as the Spiders leader at the University of Richmond. And I know, the field, the amenity, a lot of things have changed over the years. But, now that you're kind of in your groove and you're kind of getting the program rocking and rolling, what types of student athletes are attractive to you as not only a coach, but as a student for University of Richmond?
Well, it's a high academic institution for sure. And we're looking for the best students. And if I see a kid and I really like him, that's the first thing I have to check. I have to see, what kind of a student is he? I'll go to the coaches and, find out, whether it's the high school coach or the travel coach or whatever. But, we need to look at the transcripts and, test scores. And if they're not good enough, I have to walk away. I think we're just like, I'm good friends with a lot of the coaches in the Ivy, and we all have the same issues, and we talk, and it's just we have to have academic kids here, and if you're not, it's just hard to get them in.
Well, I think it's important for parents to hear this, especially as the 8th and 9th graders, as they begin to get into that discipline and routine of academics as well as the athletics. That transcript starts the first day your freshman year in high school. So you have to really be aware of not only the classes that you're taking, but you have to be diligent as a student as much as you are trying to be as an athlete. And so talking about that, give us an idea of, what type of test scores or transcripts generally are favorable for you as a head coach to take those through and into the admissions department.
Well, you hit it on the head. Once that grade goes into the 9th grade, you can't get it off. So it's important that they start in the 9th grade. Those scores and grades are just as important, as their junior and senior year. If they do struggle, you're looking for an uptick, as you go, that the grades get better, and maybe the school will look at that. But the average ACT scores are 32 or 33 here. And AP courses are very important. The kids that can take those AP courses and be successful, are usually the ones that can be successful here at Richmond.
So you mentioned you talking to the Ivy League schools. I assume that the Patriot League and the NESCAT at the Division III level are kind of in that same ballpark. Is that something that you stress when you have your camps at University of Richmond to not only the student athletes, but more importantly, the parents, that this is really who we are as a university, and it should be coveted by parents trading athletic ability for academic excellence. But is that something you kind of discuss with parents during your camps that you hold throughout the year?
Yeah. So, in my camps, I can actually tell the parents more things that I can actually say on this interview because of the NCAA rules. So, I stress to them that it is important. There's a lot of things that the parents, they don't know and they don't understand, and behind the scenes. And, I think for all the parents, it's, the coaches, we're looking for certain things as well. When we recruit, guys may be looking for a catcher or a shortstop, or, and well, my kid's got these grades. Well, I might not need a catcher. I think it's very important for parents to go on to websites and look at rosters. If your son's a catcher, go on and see how many catchers they've got on a roster at the schools you like. That's just a big deal for us. For the parents to understand what type of school we are. It's very frustrating also when you've got a coach or a travel coach that'll send us an email and say, my kid's a great fit. He's a 2.3 GPA, and that's not right. He's not a fit for us. So I think it's important for the parents to understand that Richmond, we have a number of schools, Davidson, GW, that are high academic schools in our conference. You hit on the Patriot, the NESDAQ, the Ivy. We're all the same. If you're not a high academic kid, you're probably wasting your time and money.
Right. Exactly. And I think you kind of discussed the topic with regard to not all travel ball, because I know that there's a lot of really good travel organizations, but those ones that are trying to kind of send out email blasts thinking that a student athlete's athletic ability is going to kind of get them right to the forefront of a school like Richmond. They're kind of doing a disservice to not only the parents, but more importantly, the student athlete. And so, the schools that you just alluded to in your conference, I always find that a lot of parents and student athletes together, they're always into this Power Five talk. But I know, having spent 2 years in Richmond while Tyler was playing AA baseball there, first of all, it's a beautiful community. Your campus is spectacular. And your conference is very competitive. Can you speak a little bit about the Atlantic 10 and some of the teams that are in that conference, and truly how competitive it is to be a student athlete in the A10?
Yeah, you were right, and for parents, they need to realize you're trying to find a fit for your son. Power Five is great. I played at NC State a long time ago. It's the recruiting part. It's different now. You're trying to find a fit academically, athletically. Do you want to live in downtown, whatever city it is? Do you want to live in the suburbs? You got to. How far do you want to be away from your kid? How far do you want to send your kid away? How far does your son want to go? Do you want to be 10 hours away? So we go through all that, but the A10 it's a great conference. You're in the South. You got Davidson, you got us, you got VCU has been a powerhouse. St. Louis, Dayton has been strong the last few years. GW, George Mason, St. Joe's, and then Rhode Island, Fordham. You go way up into the Northeast as well. So there's a lot of travel in this conference. You get to see the East Coast and some of the Midwest, and for us, we like where we're at. In Richmond, you hit it on the head. It's, we're 2 hours from the beach. We're 2 hours from the mountains. We're 90 miles from Washington, D.C. So, we're right in the middle of everything.
Well, I spent a lot of time on the Richmond campus, both as a coach during travel ball days, and then as a dad, watching Tyler and during his minor league season. And I can specifically tell you, Charlottesville and the Richmond campus, they're very similar in the sense that it's a community that is very engaged in their college athletics. Beautiful suburban type city. And as Coach Woodson just alluded to, you can be at the beach, you can be at the mountains, or you can be in a major metropolitan city and essentially under 2 hours or less. One of the things I want to talk to you about, Tracy, that I find intriguing is during your camps, do you have other coaches from other programs that might be Division II or Division III participate as instructors, or what are the Richmond camps like for student athletes?
Well, Colin Raddick runs our camps, and I think we have the best camps in the country. We fill every camp. He does such a great job, and it's it's a well-run, oiled machine. My first year when Colin took over, I kind of followed him around because I want to make sure that the parents are getting what they're looking for. We have players there that they can talk to them. Hey, what's it like in the fall going through classes in baseball and weightlifting or whatever it may be. So our players are accessible. During the time when we're in a quiet period or whatever, we'll have D2 and D3 coaches, and they're all high academic schools. We do a north to south camp for 3 days, beginning of August. We have a boatload of people, and then we'll have 30 to 35 schools at those Division I, and most of them are all high academic schools. And it's schools that we recruit against, but we're trying. This is a big. This is a big, for me. It's a big decision that parents, and I joke about it. It's the second biggest decision you'll make. Other than who you're going to marry. And I joke to the kids about that because it is. With the transfer portal, and kids transferring left and right nowadays. It is a big decision to make, and you're trying to make the decisions for the right reason. And I always give an example. My daughter's a senior this year. She is committed to play basketball at Purdue Fort Wayne. It's 10 hours away. It is a mid-major in the Horizon, which is a very good women's basketball league. And, people said, well, why don't you wait for this is a fit for my daughter. It's a new coach. We love the coach. We love the staff. She's going to get taken care of. She had other offers at some really good schools, but we felt this was the best fit for her. And so, we're going through with my son's a sophomore. He's a baseball player. And, I don't like it's so hard being on the other side of the recruiting part, and I tell parents that this is a tough decision. And, we have to make decisions on what players we want. And now we're sitting here trying to make a decision on what's the best fit for my kids. And, you try to make it an easier process for the parents.
Well, I think this is tremendous perspective. To digress quickly, just so parents and student athletes that you find yourself watching tonight, I want to let you know. So, as Coach Woodson just discussed, he went to NC State, and then he ended up becoming a big leaguer. We're going to get to that as far as the process. But as an athlete, and you're choosing your university, and you have your parents in the background, it is the second biggest decision you'll make in your life. And so it's not something you want to rush to do as a 8th or 9th or 10th grader, as silly as that sounds. This is something that needs to take time, and you need to really put all the pieces together. How does the coaching part work, the academic part, the athletic part, the logistical part, and so all of these play a role when you're making a decision with regard to college. And so, Tracy, on that standpoint, when you're interacting with a parent, you have a unique perspective. Then you kind of put yourself in their role. And what is it that you tell them about Richmond and what you're going to provide for their student athlete?
Well, we recruit all over the country, so their kids are going to get taken care of. They're going to get a great education if they come in, and I think this is for any coach would say, there's nothing guaranteed. There is nothing guaranteed. You have to come in and earn a spot. It is hard for a freshman to play college baseball, whatever level it is. The players are really good, and with COVID and the amount of kids that are coming back for the for the 5th or 6th year, it's hard for an 18-year-old kid to step in and play right away against 23 and 24-year-olds. And I tell my guys that the jump from high school to college is the biggest jump. It's not going from college to pro ball, because most of the time you're a 21, 22-year-old kid getting drafted. You're going to a rookie league or a low A, and you got 18 and 19-year-old Latin kids and high school draft picks, and they're all younger than you. You're the oldest there usually. So this is the toughest part, because you are coming in as a young kid with basically grown men, and playing a game that our guys we had big strong kids here at Richmond, and I can imagine when we go play the Power 5 schools, those kids are even bigger than us. Not all of them, but for the most part, that's the different levels. And I think parents need to go watch these games as well. I'll ask parents, hey, how many guys have seen a Power 5 game? How many guys have seen a mid-major? How many have seen a Division 3 game? You can watch that and kind of sit there and take a back seat and watch the game and say, where does my kid fit? Or get somebody that you trust that's outside of your family and say, watch my son, and then watch this, and help me to be honest. And when I'm making a decision, can my kid play there?
Yeah, I think that's really important to get that outside evaluation. I'm not, it's somebody that is not your high school coach, maybe not your travel ball coach, somebody that has a background within the game, whether they were a former college player, professional player, major league scout, et cetera. Get that independent evaluation. One of the things that I do want to ask you about is, and you just touched on it with regard to that biggest jump is high school to college. Do you foresee college baseball staying in this, say, 20 to 23 window as far as age is concerned due to the transfer portal, both from the JUCO level and the lateral transfers?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see much change from that. I know the NCAA is trying to get back to normality with the roster size, and I think that's the biggest deal right now is the number of kids you can have because of what happened with COVID. So we're limited because of Title IX and a roster size for the university, but I think the Power Fives can stretch it a little bit and have more, roster spots available. But I think they're going to get back to normal, I would say, in a year or two and get back to where we were before COVID.
So, how do you deal with student athletes and projectability? I get a lot of questions specifically pertaining to pitchers. Their son is a strike thrower. He's in the mid to high 80s. He hasn't hit his growth spurt yet. Those late bloomers, do they ultimately, can they find their way to a university like Richmond?
If they're good enough, they're going to find a spot. It's like pro baseball. You'll have kids they live out in the country, and people say, "Oh, they'll never." If the scouts are going to find them, and I think that's the same for college coaches. If they're out there, they're going to get found. If they show up at different events, they're going to be seen, and coaches are going to go where the players are, wherever that may be, and people talk. We're good for, like I said, we have a number of really, really good friends at the D3 level. And, if we have kids at our camp or at an event we see, we think, well, they might be a tweener for a Division 1. We'll say, hey, so-and-so, you need to go, you may want to see this kid. I think he's going to be a great D3 player. And it's the same way with basketball. When I'm watching, my daughter's friends or whatever, I try to, and I think for the parents, it's, that I joke and people sometimes get mad. You take off the mom and dad goggles, you watch everybody on the field. When my son's playing, I watch the other team, and I tell him, did you watch this and what he did? And you're trying to make them better. Well, you're not going to make them better by just sitting there and watching them and not watching everybody that's on the field. And then you can also start comparing them, to the other kids on the field. These other kids might be better, and then well, how can I get as good as they are? And that's by watching and learning the game. I think some kids that know the game are so far ahead of other kids because they know what's going to happen in certain situations. And I try to teach my kid everything I can, and I think he watches me, watches my players, and he tries to learn as much as he can that way also.
Well, I know when I was coaching at the D3 level, both my boys were watching practices, obviously watching games, and I would always point out, as you just alluded to, did you see the shortstop? Did you see the feet? Did you see the route that they took to the ground ball? And I think that's, a lot of parents will say, well, I'm not a college baseball coach. Well, you don't have to be a college baseball coach. You have to take the initiative to go watch games at a higher level. That could be a high school in your area, but it could be a college. In all college baseball, for the most part, is going to be similar in quality for a certain amount of players. Pitching is a different dynamic. That's usually a separator. But a lot of student athletes can teach younger children, how to be engaged, how to compete, how to carry yourself, body language, poise, composure. So I'm curious, your son being a sophomore, do you kind of work with him for getting prepared to be a college player, or just to become the best that he's capable of being?
That's a tough one because my wife was a college basketball coach. Hard to it's hard to coach your kids, but
Yes.
my son's really good. I'll give him that. My wife and I could not coach my daughter; she would not want it, and I think it's a little bit different, which is great. But my son will listen to most everything I say, and I'm trying to make him the best player he can be. I want him to play college baseball. I want him to play pro baseball. So how am I going to help to make him do that? And I do have an advantage with my facilities and with my background, but other parents can do the same thing. You can't overdo it and burn them out. I think that's a big deal with baseball, is burning them out. But as long as he's ready to go to the field and he wants to go to the cages and he wants to go to a game, I can make that happen. So at least I'm giving him those tools, hopefully to make him better. This game is changed. All my assistants are younger guys, and some of them into the analytics a little bit more than I am. Some of them are, the weight room a little bit more than I was. When I came up, it was a different game. And strength and power is a little bit more now. So, my son's jumped to 5'11". He needs to get stronger. He's almost 150 pounds. but he's got everything you need. It just needs he needs some more weight, and he does that 3 or 4 times a week, and I let him do that, and um, I'm waiting to see the final product, and I think that's what parents are looking for.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts on the 12-month model of baseball that it's become with, you have tournaments and showcases that go as late as into November. Then you start up in Martin Luther King birthday. They go out to Arizona. Do you think it's too much for the high school kids? Would you prefer that they kind of train more and play games less? Or what are your thoughts on that model of 12 months a year for high school athletes?
So we talk about it in here as a staff, and we talk about kids and a fresh arm. We talk about, boy, this kid's a fresh arm, and people go, what do you mean? Well, he doesn't pitch 12 months a year. I think we shut our guys down for 6 to 8 weeks at different times. I think that's important for pitchers. You can't pitch. Eventually, that's going to break down, and when you've got 14 and 15-year-old kids having Tommy John surgery, that's an issue. So you got to take a break. I'm all for guys that are hitters and position guys to play as much as you can, play as many games as you can. Now you need the practices. I don't like the teams that are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're playing games and there's no practices Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You're loading it back up Thursday again. You need practices. That's how you learn the game. I watch some games, and we've had kids before, both places I've coached, and they don't know how to run a bunt play. They don't know how to run a first and third, cutoffs and relays. They have no idea where to go. So I think at times you got to learn the game in that way. But playing and getting at bats is going to help position players so much more.
Now, at Richmond, do you have like a classroom environment with regard to baseball, whether it's pre-practice, post-practice? Do you have a classroom environment that you have the student athletes participate in, game awareness, things of that nature?
Yeah, we'll go over everything. We'll watch videos. We'll watch the video from the NCAA, for new rules for the year, and then we can go over things at different times. Our pitchers will meet in a classroom, and they'll go over, once a week. So I think that's a big deal as well. I'm not a big meeting guy. Like after the game, I want to harp on for 2 or 3 minutes what was good and what was bad, and then let them go. They need to clear their head and be ready for the next day. And I'm watching some of these coaches that meet for 30 and 45 minutes after a game. The kids, most of them you're exhausted, and it's going in one ear and out the other. So I'm trying to give as much information to my players, whoever, the kids that I know, that they're going to listen to and be able to take and use.
Okay, so here's a big question because I get asked this a lot. I'll email you on occasion when a student athlete says, "Hey, I'm interested in the University of Richmond." Give the parents an idea. Okay, this is the foundation. You need to be kind of here as a student, and then you kind of need to be here as an athlete. And how are they going to contact you? Do you want to be contacted via email? Are you a social media fan watching videos on social media? How are parents and student athletes going to capture the attention of you and Richmond University?
Well, I think it's for most coaches. I don't know how in depth I'm supposed to get in on this question, but we look at all the emails. I'm not a huge social media guy, but we get so many of them. You're looking for a video no more than 3 minutes long. If it's more than 3 minutes, most coaches are going to delete them because they're getting so many of those. Um, but you got to, you got to contact the recruiting coordinators. I think that's a big thing. But once again, you got to make sure that the transcript has to be attached. For academic schools, they've got to see that. But you got to send them to schools where you can actually um, probably play at that school. Don't just send them out to 100 schools. We tell kids, just parents, pick 5 to 10 schools that you're interested. Go visit the schools. Go to see a D1 school. Go see a D3 school. Go to a private school. Go to a public school. Look at the campus. Go 5 to 7 hours away or whatever. And there's so many schools and areas that you can visit and kind of get a feel. And then go in and meet the coaches if it's a time where they're in and it's a time where they can actually talk to you. With our rules now, you have to, it's September 1 of your junior year. We can't contact back. and it's hard when you're getting emails from freshmen and you can't respond to them, and the parents don't know that, and so that's I think that's other things that the parents need to learn as well.
Do you foresee a change coming with regard to the rule as when a student athlete can commit at the Division I level for baseball, kind of similar to softball? They can't do it until that fall of their junior year. Do you see that type of rule passing?
There's so many things that are being talked about now, and I think it's driven by the Power Five schools, and then it works its way down to us, and I don't know what's going to happen. It's hard for me to watch eighth and ninth graders commit to schools. That's where I have an issue, because this is their life. They're gonna miss 3 or 4 years of recruiting and actually
Right.
find a school that may fit better. Because if they don't get any better, they're not going to that school.
Right.
They're not. And then they're going to start the recruiting process over and have less than a year to make that decision, because they've sat on it for 3 or 4 years. Because some of these kids aren't going to the schools they commit to.
Now, are you active on social media, just for point of reference for parents and student athletes? Are you
I
or your
I
staff?
look at that. I'm not huge on it, but I do go on, and look at stuff, and I get a bunch that are hooked onto my accounts, and I'll look at them, but I don't usually get bombarded with it. So
Well, I want to say thank you, Tracy, because I know this time of year is busy, both as a parent and obviously as a coach. So I want to say thank you for joining us and sharing a great deal of information, not only about University of Richmond, but about college baseball, professional baseball, and so forth. I look forward to visiting the campus this spring, as I have a young man that's going to be taking a visit there during April vacation up here in the Northeast. So I'm going to be joining the family. I have some friends down there from AA that when Tyler was down there, so I'm just jumping on board to go see those people. But have a great holiday. I know you're not going down to Nashville, but I will look forward to seeing you in the spring at one of the Spider home weekends.
awesome. Well, we look forward to having you down here.
Thank you very much, Tracy. And for parents, I'm going to put all the information down in the description of the video, Coach Woodson's contact information, email. And if you feel that you're a student athlete, or you are a student athlete and feel that you fit the profile to become a Spider at the University of Richmond, all that information will be down below. Thank you for joining us. And next week, we'll be talking to the head coach at Ole Miss, Mike Bianco, College World Series champion last summer. Join us each and every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern for Coach's Corner. Thank you for watching.